It's disingenuous to say that it's a sharp performance, because if you look at the graph, as you show here, it's not sharp. It took a gradual approach and peaked at where we are now. I think Prof mentioned a very fundamental point, which is supply-oriented policies.
So if we had left the ship to sail with Baumia, we would have seen this still. Is that the argument?
How would it
you said it was gradual.
Gradual from where we started from in terms of heralding what we had to do with the indication of a budget, which was our blueprint to internal control. But you saw the figures. We are not lying to them. The inflation figures, we had a very overheated economy. Where domestic debt exchange program, we went on a borrowing spree on the bond market, came back celebrating with Kenke parties among other issues. We are not even singing a jingle of Sepr to celebrate this. But what I am invariably saying...
That's not true. That's not
Richard,
true.
Can I...
Go ahead, but that's not true.
Right. So when we talk about the supply-oriented policies, I agree with Prof, but that's very long-term. That's very long-term. Right, under what we're doing now, and I'll take it pick by pick. You talk about cocoa, you talk about gold, among other issues, and an IMF program. I keep saying this, and I overlabor this point, that the IMF program we inherited is a very unique IMF program. Why do I say this? You went to an IMF with your tails in between your legs, with downgrading ratings agencies, downgrading us to almost junk status, right, in the run-up to an election, in the last quarter of an election. With all of this happening, what did we see in the international front as far as the market is concerned? You missed tranches of it. And mind you, we have a very temperamental economy and market that any practitioner must admit, and even politician. So the least mistake you make, it can go negative or go very south. So what happened is that under usual circumstances, there are two things to benefit cardinal when you're under an IMF program. One is that when the Forex hits the national kitty, is sent to give some respite to the Cedi, and you have investors that were holding back Forex will now come back onto the market to see how they could invest. We're missing tranches under the program. What happened is that investors no longer trust the market because we missed it. That trend was lost at the time.
We missed what?
Oh, IMF tranches. I mean, I'm talking about the payments.
We never missed anything. No. We have not missed one. Not at all.
We never missed anything.
We've had two. Not at all. To the third, right?
Yes. No, I'm not saying all the conditions we were to meet before the money was released.
Okay, that's different from
That's what I'm talking about.
But the disbursement
don't miss it.
But you said tranche. Okay. That's what you said.
No, when I say tranches of payments.
Yes.
So let me qualify it.
No, but not what you said. But we haven't missed it.
Richard, the terminology would have been servicing. I never use servicing. So please.
You said tranche. But you used the right one. And please, as economists, help us. We want to go with it.
That's why you say tranche. I'm really trying to avoid the terminologies.
Okay. Prof did it, and we understood all of them.
So I
Prof did it, and we understood fine. So
I think Prof uses all of them. So I try to hold back to be as practical as possible, combining both the teacher and politician in me. So you have all of this happening, which led us to a very overheated economy. And what we only are enjoying from this inherited IMF program is a watchman status that the IMF is playing, right, by putting the watchman at the central bank, among other issues, to really ensure that the policies are being met. Apart from that, we lost, the practical element it would have reflected. But to say that the government did nothing, it's very disingenuous.
But just say what the government has done.
No, you look at gold.
What have they done?
Among other issues coming.
Say it.
Right. People fail to realize that most of the purchases are not going to bullion, but to Forex. So if it's going to Forex, how can it not invariably inform this?
When did the gold board start become operational?
It is not about, market is indication. And when we talk about optics and sentiments, that is market. So they can read it from, that's where I disagreed with Thompson when he was talking about they don't know where this would be. They have to plan, they are business people. So to look at events that has happened in the past and where we are, where do you think the city would be and leave room for what it is? I'm not even celebrating this. We will celebrate after 4 years. Because this is just, first quarter we are looking at. But you look at our budget, and Prof, you would know that the budget we presented in 2025 is just a photographic picture of what we are doing in 2025. That would change. And you agree with me that the instrument we've activated as a government to manage this economy, we are left with no other choice than to activate this instrument in the budget, which is tightening.
I agree.
And internal control. And you see the president exuding that even in practice. So signaling, which Nana Akufo-Addo aptly said that Sika and Pedede, right? This was where he was trying to talk about market sentiment, optics, among other issues happening. So you look at all of this, even our nascent banking sector is trying its best as far as forex flow is concerned. If anyone is worried as of now, you are holding dollars as an illegal business measure. That is why you'll be worried as a business person. Why are you worried? when
no. But how right? is that? How is that a problem? If it's somebody's asset,
no, it is not.
Holding
no, but the point illegal. Is, why should no? What I'm saying. So if you are trading in that and hurting the economy, and some gains are being made, and you are beginning to say, okay, well, I cannot understand this. Yes, but again, mind you, what are we? We are in month 5, right, of a whole calendar financial year. Month 5, and what it means is that a budget that was read in March, appropriation goes in among other issues. And that's where, again, I tend to have a slight disagreement to say that the economy is operating at 60%. It may not be very accurate because there's paper spending ahead of real actual spending that ought to. So are we saying we are mopping all of that in to really determine what is happening? Now you look at big ticket items on it, which talks about the big push among other issues. We haven't gotten there yet. So this is just a first. Sorry?
But there's no injection backing this policy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That injection, no, but per expectation, right, and even financial management, no injection can be made. It's unrealistic.
Yes.
Yeah, it is very unrealistic.
That's what I'm saying, that we will scale up.
We will scale up.
And
that's where the problem is.
Yes.
The scaling up, that's where the problem is.
So, but it is not a deliberate attempt for injections not to be made. It is the natural movement and course of the government and the rollout of the policy.
And I've commended
government. You've commended that. And our budget for 2020.
You don't have to confess. You've made a point and it's correct.
Right. So it is a stability budget, if you look at it. And I commend the finance minister. So the Mahama Atu Forcing economy is looking at this and is looking at stability in the first quarter, moving all the way probably to the last quarter to see where we can now have real injection of real capital. But mind you, if you look at infrastructure in and of itself, which is a big push, and look at the amount that is voting, I think $10 billion. Now, $10 billion. Yeah. That has a trickle-down effect if it's on full-blown scale of going out to artisans, among other issues. So it's a whole gamut of, people to look after. 24-hour economy. I don't know why people are so scared. Richard and Co are very scared of the 24-hour economy.
No, it's not about being scared. It's about being realistic.
Not being realistic, but what do you expect in the first quarter of a government that have promised a big ticket item?
It simply doesn't sound realistic to me.
How does it not sound realistic to you? I explain.
They said they will launch the policy.
They will launch the policy, and we have a whole, and the commitment of the president is evident. He's appointed a whole advice.
It's not about a policy. It's about what this economy can support. No, realistically.
Look, I'm coming. I don't know your thinking of it, but I'm saying for the existence of within the confines of a 24-hour economy, we have a demand side and we have a supply side, okay, and we have an incentive side of it. The government can incentivize the system to create a 24-hour economy. That is the incentive side of it. The demand side of it is the economy would demand that. I always give this classic example. Let's say airport shell, for example. If I'm in town any time of the day, be it midnight, whatsoever, and I need to get fuel, that's where I drive to because it's running 24/7.
Yeah, it doesn't sleep.
So it's already existing within the economy. So what it needs to have now is an incentive to allow others to emulate or to join the fray of operating within the 24-hour economy. So let's say, okay,
I'm coming. That place, there's a demand for it.
No, but I'm giving you the indicators. I mentioned demand, supply, and incentive. Yeah. So can I come in? So if we say, okay, well, with the justification for the demand for it, that's not the only place that will have demand for it nationwide. There will be other places, and the factors are there to absorb that. We say, okay, we recalibrate the pump at the downstream sector of these stations to say, okay, past midnight, right? This is the amount of taxes that you earn on it, or this is the incentive on tax base on it. Then others see that as an incentive to join the fray, right? It does not going to be a 24-hour economy. That's just one minute aspect I'm showing you. No, people view the 24-hour economy as brick and mortar.
Yes.
It is just not brick and mortar.
Okay.
It encompasses a lot.
No. I need you to wrap up for me.
Okay, so yeah, I'm wrapping up on these issues. But you see, having inherited an overheated economy, as I indicated, for the first time in our long history, financial history, nobody, Prof would agree with me, cracked a sweat to access cocoa syndicated loan. When we went to the syndicated market, we were rushed for. But what happened before we took the economy? We couldn't syndicate, right? And that has implications. So if you have a government coming in and giving all the real commitments, as far as fiscal tightening is concerned, financial discipline is concerned, prudence is concerned, among other issues. So we talk about the economy as though we're talking about a 4-year or 8-year-old government.
Anyway.
So we need to contextualize, right? Budget read in March, appropriations being made. At what time do we have disbursement?
You see, for your ordinary Ghanaian,
Yeah.
all this Cedi talk,
Yes.
all they want to see is how it reflects in prices.
And that's what I'm saying. You see, when you let's not even create the impression as though we are out on the street celebrating that the Cedi has done X, Y, Z. I said our celebration is after 4 years. So this is just part of the process of a bigger celebration to come when we leave office or when President Mahama ends his tenure in JM2. Right. So that is what we should be looking at. But in any case, for me, I cringe when we tend to have currency conversations such as this. Should we even be having these conversations?
You are the one celebrating it.
But you held the press conference.
You are the one celebrating it.
How many did you hold a Kenke party at the
Well,
press
maybe you have done it. You didn't bring the cameras.
It wasn't just Keke, there was watching.
Right.
There was also watching on the TV.
Dr. Redfish? Sorry, let me come to Dr.
No, I wanted to ask a question.
No, I'm sorry. Richard, we need to go to the next topic.
Certainly.